Well, hello there. Welcome once more to Cornish Kitchen. And if this is your first time stopping by, I'd like to say a very warm Okra to you. It is yet another meal prep day over here for me, and I'm bringing you along with me. I hope you enjoy watching this video, and most importantly, I hope you pick a thing or two and this video inspires you to do your meal planning. So right now I have here 2 Cornish hens, and these I intend to oven bake. So I'm just going to cut them up and wash them, marinate, and get them ready for that. So on today's menu we have some okra stew, palaver sauce, jollof, fried rice. I'm also going to saute some veggies. We are making some palm nut soup. This time I'm going to be making it using palm nut base from the can, and I'll be making some tilapia soup, just fresh tilapia soup. Yeah, so I hope these are interesting to you and you will stay with me as we cook this. I am hoping that this keeps you company as you do your own meal prep over the weekend. So I started with the Cornish hen because it needs enough time to marinate before we bake it. So that is the one I did first. You know, you have to plan in as much as you're going to be cooking. This is almost like all day cooking, but you want to plan, strategize so that you do this efficiently. So the meat first, the one that is not going to be boiled but just needs enough time to marinate and bake so it is juicy, flavorful, and just amazing. You know, that's all I can say. So I've washed this now. I'm gonna go ahead and pat it dry. So the one of them was bigger than the other, so the one that was big I cut into 4 pieces. I quartered it, and then the other one is just half. These are so good. Like, if you haven't tried Cornish hens before, if ever you see them, just try it. You know, they're so small, so lean most of the time, and because of their size, it's easy for your seasoning to just sip into it and give it, you know, meat. You end up with meat that is just delicious, tasty to the bone. So I added some salt. I am going to add here some kebab pepper, and that is kebab pepper I have in that container. Just use an empty container to store it. And I have in here in that bowl is some of my marinade, my all-purpose marinade, which the recipe is here as well. And now I'm gonna go ahead and add some olive oil. So all this is the marinade I'm gonna use. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this up just like that. And so once it's mixed up in here, everything is mixed up, I'm trying to pack this marinade under the skin of my bird, and everywhere that you can get it, you're trying to put enough marinade on your Cornish hens. You know, I choose to call it chicken for this reason, so bear with me if I say chicken, but it is a kind of bird. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that to make sure it is tasty and just perfect when you eat it. And once this is done, I'm just gonna go ahead, try to arrange them because I'm going to bake them in this same dish, and then I'll cover this and let it marinate. So because I'm baking in here, I'm going to try and wipe the edges. You just don't want the edges to be overly messy, because once it's done you could just carry this to the table. But this is a meal prep, so it's not a big deal, but you still want to save yourself from a pot or a dish that is, you know, has food burns on the edges, which is going to make it hard. So I just used some film, cling film, to cover it, and I left it in the fridge to marinate. And right here I am making some jollof. So the jollof, I'm not showing you everything in here, just to let you know I did jollof that same day in that little time, but there's going to be a full recipe video for this that I'm going to share with you next. So I was also making mackerel. That is what I actually started with, because as I said, you have to plan so you cook efficiently. So the mackerel went in first because I needed it to be out so I could proceed to cook with it, whilst my jollof baked. I baked this jollof, and I baked the goat meat that went into the jollof, as well as the Cornish hens together. You know, when we are making videos, we try to strategize. Sometimes I bring stuff out and, you know, you don't see it, but most of the time, even in my recipe video, when I'm making just one meal, that you see, I'm probably cooking other things in the oven. And, you know, that is the way you save on gas and everything. So I'm baking the jollof, and if I'm ever baking chicken and I need to make jollof, I just go ahead and bake everything, because that chicken is staying in the oven for anywhere between 40 to an hour, 40 minutes to an hour, and it's about that same amount of time it will take you to make your jollof. So whilst everything is in the oven now that needs to bake, I am cleaning my meat, and that was cow skin, so I washed it, scrape off what needed to be scraped, and I'm going to cook it in the pressure cooker, like pre-cook it. So I just added some salt, and then I'll season it afterwards when it is pre-cooked. So in the pressure cooker it goes, I cover it. So in here right now is oxtail, cow foot, and skin, and this I set for 20 minutes. It was hard for me to decide on the setting because I never read my manuals. Don't be like me, read your manuals. So I have a big pot here. I decided to use this big pot to make the soup, and what is in my hand right now is some beef that I grilled myself. It's almost like smoked. I cooked it on the grill in the summertime, and then I just let it sit on the grill covered, so it brought out all the fat, you know, because it's so hot here in Arizona. So this beef ended up coming out like smoked meat, but it's actually just beef, and it's so good. Like when you make palm nut soup with it or any kind of soup, and it's actually baked. So sometimes I just wash them off and use this in my watches too, and it's just as good. So here is the beef. And now I have here some pork hogs that I got from the grocery store, and that I'm going to also put in here. So in this big pot is what we are going to be making the palm nut soup, abenquine. And so I wash my hogs, cut them up. I'm trying to cut each into two, but this proved difficult. So I was like, you know what, forget it. When it's cooked enough, we can just split it. So here they go into the pot, and now I have some crabs here. These are blue crabs, and guys, I know a lot of people have tried to comment on how I clean my crabs, and so I'm just going to show you how I do it. Part of them I learned from you guys because I never used to trim the pointy sides, you know, just on the edges, but everything else I think I clean. So I'm going to go ahead and let you see how I clean it, and hopefully it is the right way. And if I missed any step, you know, we are here to learn, and I am very, very ready to learn. So kindly let me know if there's any other cleaning or trimming that this crab needs, because like I said, I am also here to learn. So I have a vegetable brush, and that is what I'm using. I use that to wash my crab because, you know, it has all these little corners that it's hard to wash on with just your hands. And always I trim off the ends, like the tips. My mom, we just call it nimore, you know, like the fingernails. So those pointy nails, you know, the very pointy tips on the small legs or claws. I don't think those are claws, the legs. We trim them off, and that is how I was taught by my mom. And so the parts that I just cut, those pointy ones on the side, is what I would typically just leave. And so from you guys, I have learned that they need to be, you know, because it can, you know, poke somebody, which makes sense. So I've started trimming that part, this one right there, and I trimmed the claws as well, and that I learned from here. So yeah, I'm thankful to you all. And so I'm going to do that, and some of them I cut into two. I remove the eyes, and that covering just above the eyes where I'm trying to remove the eyes, I remove that as well. And so I hope this is clean enough, but like I said, if it's not, let me know, please. And some people also talk about the fact that you don't remove the shells. I know most of us in Ghana, this kind of crab, at least this blue crab, we just let the shell be. It's just beautiful, decorative. You know, food is not just about eating it. So far as there's nothing poisonous in there, if it's going to make your food look delicious, you know, we have stuffed crabs and all. So that's all I can say. So that is washed, and I'm now going to go ahead and bring out more pots so we can get all my meats ready. So right here now, I am going to wash some tripe and offals, and this is what I'm going to be making the okra stew with. I had it already washed in the freezer, but of course you always want to give it just one more wash, because when you bring it from the butcher, you wash it. but you're tired. Like normally you're tired. It's not like a perfect wash. So that is done already. And now I'm going to focus on the tilapia. And this is going to be for the tilapia light soup, just for my husband and I. Actually, my son likes the fish, so he will eat it, but my daughter won't. And this comes pre-scaled. You know, the scale is removed for you, so it's partly clean, but they don't remove the fins, and that is what I'm trimming off, and then I'll cut it up. So now I'm going to give my fish a thorough wash and place them in the saucepan that I'm going to make the soup in. So at this point, I'm done with all my meats and fish, cleaning everything. So it is time for me to clean my working area. And in that glass bowl is some salted beef that Nandaba made and gave to me. This is so good. I made a recipe video using that to make soup. I hope you check it out and check out how she made this salted beef. So I soaked it a little bit because it's a little bit, you know, it gets salty. That's why we call it salted beef. So I soaked it a little bit, and now I think it's good enough. And I've put them on my fish. And now I'm going to clean my countertop before we proceed. You know, you just finished with all these meats, the blood and everything. And like we keep on telling you, disinfect, disinfect, disinfect. You don't want to bring any germs, you know, contaminate your surfaces or anything. So once you're done with that, make sure everything is thoroughly cleaned before you continue to do anything else. And so that is just disinfectant spray. And I'm using that to clean the countertop, and then I'll wash the sink with soap and water. Wiped it first, sprayed, cleaned, and then I'm doing this now. So I'm going to wash the dishes that I use, the knives and everything, make sure they are thoroughly cleaned with soap. And I'm not going to say warm water, because when I use water, I don't use warm, I go hot. So it is actually hot water. You know, especially now it's a little bit cold, even here on the desert. And so it is very hot water to ensure that this is, you know, very well sanitized. You clean everything, especially your chopping board. And one thing that I hope to do is to get a plastic. I really don't have a plastic board. I have a lot of chopping boards, so I have some for meat and everything, but from my understanding, which really makes sense anyway, when you're told or you hear it anyway, plastic is better to do meat, because you know you don't have all the juices or liquids seeping into the wood. Wood can absorb some of it, but plastic doesn't. So I'm gonna make sure I get a plastic chopping board one of these days. One more, yeah. What else can we get, you know, to make it good? So yeah, if you're looking into a chopping board, I hope you do that ahead of me. Get that plastic, it's better. So my meats, you know, the wele, cow foot and oxtail are perfectly good. They are soft now. And so I'm just going to put them in almost when whatever I'm cooking is done. So some of it will go into the spinach, some will go in the palm nut soup, and some will go in the okra stew. So right here, I'm just going to clean my onions. And that is not a good one. So yeah, I'm going to discard it. And I'm just going to clean everything else, peel the skin, whatever you call it. Wash them, cut them up, and blend. And yes, I blend everything in bulk when I'm cooking like this. So then you just go ahead and just be splitting them onto whatever you want, the meats or the stew, whatever you're making. And that is it. So I'm going to peel some ginger now to add onto the meat. Always fresh meat and ginger, just perfect. It brings out so much flavor to your meat. Powdered works, but you know, fresh is better. So onions and ginger are all clean, and it is time for us to cook them. So I'm gonna go fish out my blender. Yeah, I never upload my dishwasher. Like, it's one of the hardest things for me to do. So I found the blender, and here we go. I'm just gonna cut everything up in here. I already have the ginger cut up in the blender. I'm going to do the same with the onions, blend them, and then we can start cooking our meat. So I hope you remember I started off by making the jollof, the chicken and the goat meat. So the goat meat is for the jollof, and it's almost done, and that is actually what we are having for dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and make the vegetables. It's going to be sauteed, and that we're going to have some of the jollof with it. I'm making a big batch because it's meal prep, and then later on I will package the rest with the jollof. So we made a similar one in the collaboration video Nanaba and I made, which is my most recent video and her most recent video as well, if you're going to be watching this as soon as it's posted. So do check it out, because you will have a more detailed one, even though I take you through the steps a little bit, because I knew I was going to be cooking up a storm. I tried to cut a step. So I had gone to Sam's Club, and their broccoli florets, it's so inexpensive. I mean, it's a good price. So instead of buying broccoli heads to come home and cut them up, I just bought from the bag, and all the other vegetables I try to cut up myself. So this is just you trying to eat the rainbow. So whatever veggies that you really like, you just want to have as much variety, color, texture as possible. So I started off with garlic. I sauteed the garlic, and then I added the broccoli, and now I have some bell peppers. So whatever colors you want, I just added the orange and red, and I also have in there some carrots, and now I've added my onions, and these came in last after I seasoned with salt and black pepper, because I want the red onions to retain their color when I'm serving. So once the red onion went in there, I covered it for about 2 minutes just for the steam to cook it through a little bit, and that was all. I also added some cilantro, and like I said, if you watch the Cook With Me with Nanaba, we really went into detail. You could really watch that to make your sauteed vegetables. So I just added in here some of my pre-made tomato puree, which I also have a video here, onto my meat, and that is the meat that I'm going to be using for the soup. And my palm nut base, always remember, wash your cans, because you never know where they've been, what rodents or whatever contaminant is on the lid. So just wash it as much as you can before you open. So this is Praise. It was highly recommended. It's a brand that was highly recommended when I went to the African market. I haven't done this base, palm nut base, in the longest time, because my mom always makes sure that I have the pulp from the palm, you know, when it's pounded, and she just takes the nuts out of it. Sometimes she sun dries them, sometimes it comes fresh. We just freeze them, and then you travel with them. It is very allowed. Nobody's going to stop you, and that you know you have your delicious palm nut soup. So I have a video here. Do check that out, how I use that to make my soup, and this was good. But I mean, if I have a choice, I'll use the fresh one. So my meat, it's cooking with that tomato puree that I put in, my homemade tomato puree. So I added some broth, you know, some of the stock from the meat when I cooked it, and as you can see, this is very soft already. I add them here together with some of the juices that I poured in, give it a stir, and I'm going to let this cook on low simmering so the flavors just mingle together. And whilst it does that, I am going to wash my okra. I normally like to use fresh okra, and this is fresh but not so fresh because I bought it like days ago. Where I normally find okra is so far from my home that when I go out and I have to buy it, I just buy it, and this sat in the fridge for almost 5 days, so it's not as fresh anymore, but it still works. To me, it's still better than frozen. And so I'm just trimming them. I cut off the heads and I don't know what to say, the tails, well, both ends, let's just say both ends, which is why I always make sure I always try to get my okra from, you know, and cut it myself, I should say, because the frozen ones has all of this in part of it, and growing up, you know, I was taught to trim it off, and I just feel like it has material or parts that is not supposed to be in there. So I added some of the blended ginger and garlic and onions onto my tilapia and salted beef, and that is going to start the tilapia soup as well. And meanwhile, you can see this palm nut soup. It's bubbling, it's smelling so good. It really smells good with all those combination of meat in there. And now I'm going to add some percocet, and this is what we call ardent fruit. And this is called, what we say, soup lavender. Yes, it, you know, just gives some fragrance to your soup. And so I have washed it, cut it up into two, put it in here, and I've added some tomatoes, about 4 tomatoes and a couple of peppers. And for the tilapia soup, I added some tomatoes, carrots, and I just had this stray bell pepper lying somewhere, so I added it. And look at that fish head. That is huge. I don't even think you can even tell how huge it is looking at it from here. But there, look at it in here, and that is a big part. When you ask my mom for something, trust me, she goes overboard. And this is just to bring some great flavor in the soup. And those mushrooms, yes. Our friend's mom came to visit us from New York, and yeah, New York for Mudia. Why am I even here? So they have it in New York. It was bought frozen, so she bought it frozen, and she bought a big pack, and that is what I got. I have like 2 more portions still in my freezer, so you can only imagine. So my tomatoes and carrots and peppers on the light soup, like let's just say all the vegetables are cooked. This just cooked for about 10 minutes. And so I am bringing them out now, blended, pour them in, added some water, and look at that. Our soup is looking beautiful. If you've never put carrots in your soup, I hope you try it. It's a good way for you to hide vegetables in. For those little picky eaters, they will not be the wiser. So I have here some onion, ginger, and my tomatoes. And fresh ginger in your palm nut soup is just amazing. So always add that, even though you add it to the base. And that is what I've blended and poured into my soup. And this is going to assure you flavor, like a depth of flavor aroma. This soup is just lit, like it's so good. I hope you tried this. And so I'm adding in here a Maggi shrimp tablet for more flavor, and I have here Superku. This is a kind of salted fermented, but not as fermented as momone, and the flavor this brings, amazing. I specifically use the head because it has more flavor. It's just going to infuse into this palm nut soup. And just look at somebody over here. Yeah, he's busy too. And right now I am just gonna go ahead and add some blended okra. So I blended about a quarter of the total amount of okras that I had, and I blended that, so it's in here now, and I'll have the cut up pieces in here as well. So I'm just going to let them all cook together straight in my stew, and once it's done, I'm just going to add just a little bit of palm oil. But yeah, I thought about my fish, so the smoked mackerel, I just took 2 pieces and cut them up, each the tail ends into 3, added that, stirred it up, let it simmer for about 10 minutes, and now I have added some palm oil, and that is about all the palm oil I have left. So just a little bit of the palm oil in there, and this is almost all done. So I'm just going to let it simmer for about just 2 more minutes. My palm oil, as you can see from most of my videos, when I'm pouring from this container, I never do anything special to it because it came special. It was made at home. This is from palm soup, so it's very, very fragrant. I don't need to put anything like onion or momoni or any kind of thing to make it, you know, more fragrant. It is perfect. So that is why I don't cook it for too long. Just pour it on and it's good. And my soup is almost done too. So I just added some fresh peppers just for us to have something, you know, some heat in there when we eat it, because for the kids' sake it's always a little bit bland. And so my soup is done. I've put that on the side. And now we are going to focus on the palava sauce. So I have in here some oil, and I added in some onions, and just when it cooked, I didn't let it cook all the way to caramelization. When it was a little bit sweaty, I added some of my tomato base, that is the puree, and there's a video too. So this ensures, you know, all your meal prep is done faster. You save a lot of time when all these are pre-made at your convenience. So that is the very last part of the blended onion and ginger, and that I put in here. And because I'm not having any fresh peppers in there, I put some smoked paprika in my palaver sauce, and that was so good. Like, I just love smoked paprika. So egusi stew or palaver sauce is, you know, always made with melon seeds, though I have another ingredient that I would be sharing with you soon. And so I'm going to blend that. I added water to it, and salt. I always blend mine with salt because my mom always taught me that once you blend it with salt, you know, it helps for this to clump up. So I made my stew from the beginning. It had no salt, and I added just about enough salt to blend the egusi with, and hopefully that is enough. But if it's not, then you can add. But the salt, when added, helps it to clump up. And whilst that is cooking, I'm also getting ready to make the fried rice. So I like to julienne my carrots this way. My daughter really likes the texture, so I take the pains to do it that way. And once I was done, because I covered this egusi to let it cook and clump up, so it was covered, cooked on low, and now it's ready. So I added my mackerel fish that I have flaked up, and I'm just going to let this cook for a little bit to absorb the flavors. And now I added in the skins, my oxtail and everything, and that is going to simmer a little bit whilst I get some mushrooms ready to add. For a very detailed video, I have a good palaver sauce video here, and I hope you can watch that. This is just for motivation. Even though I'm taking you through everything, it's rushed, so you can find that. And I always love baby spinach, like baby spinach for my palaver sauce. I just love it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this up, and that is what I'm going to add into my stew, and then it will be done. Palaver sauce will be done. So the mushroom went in there. I covered it up a little bit. Mushrooms don't take that long to cook, so it cooked for about 5 minutes. I added the spinach, and always I just cover it, and then the moisture itself, the heat will just make it easy for you to stir, because once you put the spinach in there and you try to stir right away, you're just gonna make a big mess. So I started making my fried rice. I added in some chopped onions. I just cubed up some onions, and then what you saw me grating was some ginger. So I always love grated ginger in my fried rice. And so when it was cooked for about 2 minutes, you know, the onions and the ginger together, I crushed my 3 eggs in here, and I'm just going to let it scramble a little bit. So the eggs have cooked. It is almost scrambled. It's perfect. And now I added in my carrots. And this is just going to be very simple fried rice. And you know, they say the simple things are the best things ever. This is so good. So good. I hope you try this. So I just added, what you saw me add on that little spoon was just some chili flakes, just to bring in a little heat, just a little heat, because the kids will eat it. But if you're just making it for yourself, you could spice it up just as much as you want, because that chili flakes in the fried rice is just amazing. So I mixed up my rice. I cooked that rice in the beginning. I don't know if I showed you, but I cooked the rice way ahead. So that and the chicken were done around the same time. Efficient cooking. So the rice had enough time to cool off and to make the fried rice perfect. So I cooked it in the rice cooker, set it aside, and it was pretty cold. So now I'm almost done. My rice is done. My palaver sauce is done. Everything else is done. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my dishes, and I have everything lined up here. Those that I finished earlier on are cooling off, and now I can go ahead and dish them out. So I'm going to do the fried rice first. And remember that Cornish hen that I cooked, I didn't show you guys because I focused on the jollof. I was making a jollof video at the same time. Yes, I know, crazy. And so yeah, it's nighttime now. My little boy is sleeping. As you can see, he's tired. And I'm just dishing out the fried rice. These normally we will take to work, or even if we are staying home and you pick a pack, it is just enough for you to just eat at home, or it's just a portion of food. And so the fried rice is all done, dished out, and now I'm doing the jollof. And this jollof, this is goat meat jollof, oven baked, and I'm gonna bring you the full recipe. I hope you watch it and I hope you enjoy it. And I use some of my tomato-based stew. So in the meantime, you can go ahead and watch that video so you know how to, you make your tomato stew, and with that you can make wonders. Spaghetti jollof, brown rice jollof, basmati jollof, jasmine jollof, gari photo. What can't you make with that stew? It's just perfect. So this is the palava sauce. I just transfer everything into one dish because I know we're going to finish this. This is just going to pair well with some apisi, yam, plantain, rice. So it's going to be gone, at least within 10 days. So I'm not going to separate it. It's just enough. And I dished out the okra stew too. I portioned it into 2, and I'm going to freeze 1. So my tilapia soup, we are going to be having company, and that is what they requested. So I will be working. I didn't want to have to cook it later. So that I put everything in here. And as you can see, I broke up some of the fish, but not too much. And so it is okay. So my palm soup is next, and I'm trying to skim off some of the palm oil. And if I had used the fresh, I tell you, you can see from my video, I got a lot of oil. But this is just enough. At least I can make some boom with it for just 1 serving for me and my husband. And that will be good. And now that I got some of the palm oil off, I'm just going to go ahead and portion out the soup. And the soup, I'm going to try to make 4 portions, 4 portions as in just 4 different bowls, and each bowl is gonna be enough for my family, and it's just a family of 4, my husband, myself, and my 2 little kids. And so we'll freeze 2 and put 2 in the fridge, and the ones that are frozen, like I said in my other video, probably we'll revisit it 3 weeks to 4 weeks later. So look at this, everything is all done. Look at that fried rice, simple but so delicious. And you've seen that Cornish hen, perfectly cooked, oven baked, but it looks like it just came off the grill, and it was so flavorful, delicious. I hope you try that next time you see it in the store. So everything is all set, all cooled off, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cover all these and refrigerate. The ones that need to be refrigerated and those that need to be frozen will be frozen. So next time that I meal prep, I can make, the jollof is always like a staple in my house, but everything else, like I can make something else because I'll have a portion of okra soup in the freezer. I'll have 2 portions of palm nut soup in the freezer, and so I can focus on making other soups. And so whenever we feel like palm soup, we can always bring that out. I hope this is a tip for you. I'll be making banku. I fermented my own cornmeal. It's not done yet. And of course, this is a lot of cooking, so I am tired, so I wouldn't even do it. But I'll be making banku. We have the soup for if we want fufu, we want to just drink soup. Everything is done, and I can relax. Plus, above all, you eat what you have in your fridge, knowing what is in there, and that is a healthy way. It might not be the healthiest options, carb-wise, but it's still home-cooked food with a lot of vegetables, and you won't know what exactly went into it. If you've stayed with me through this video to this point, I have to say a big thank you to you. I know it's a lengthy video, but it is a lot of food that I made, and I hope you gained some inspiration, some ideas, at least a tip from this video. And that is what I'm here to do. We learn and then we teach. I'm not here just to share with you, but also to learn from you. I'm always open to comments and suggestions, and I hope you consider subscribing to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until I come your way next time with something delicious, be loving, be kind, be happy.